What's up, guys? Welcome to Jesse and Trey podcast. Another episode for you guys after our last amazing episode, our interview. Trey, how are you, bro?
Doing really good, man. I've been just kind of hermiting at home, still on lockdown here, just chilling, drawing. That's it. But I heard that you just got a reading with Vanuja.
That is correct. Who told
And
you this?
she told you some pretty interesting things.
Yes, I've learned some stuff, guys. I've learned the day I'm gonna die.
Dun, dun, dun. Now, death is a pretty interesting concept in the West. Like a lot of the times, if you were to ask someone, would you want to know when you're going to die? Most people would say no. How do you feel about knowing the day you're going to die?
It was surprising, honestly. Like, I'm not going to try to act like a tough guy, but it's pretty hard to shake me to like tell me something that like scares me. And it didn't really shake me, honestly. I was just kind of shocked. I was like, damn, like I can't believe she fucking told me that, But she didn't mean this is when you're going to die for sure, because like there was a lot of potentials. Life is all about, there's a lot of free will mixed with fate. So like what she meant is like based on the astrology of, I think the year 2080, a certain transit I had in Vedic astrology, I think it was like Saturn and Ketu together, something like that. Saturn, Ketu, I don't even know. Which makes sense. Basically, she's like, that's a time where I could die, but if I like become like a spiritual master or, like a highly spiritual person by that time, of course, I can get through anything. So I think that was more of like, I think it was like a wake up call to me to know, like, it was like, damn, like I've never heard someone put a date, November something 2060 of like when I could
2060. Well, you still got some good years on you.
I'm halfway there, according to that.
Although actually, that means you're going to die pretty young. You're going to die like right? 70.
Well, the good news is that, I am going to go down that spiritual route. I mean, that's my plan. I have kind of accepted that, like, at some point in my life, I'm not going to be living a very traditional lifestyle, and I'm going to probably want to go to India and, whatever, and do some stuff that's going to, make it so I'm not going to die at 70. Because in every other type of Vedic astrology, everything is geared towards like me. Like I remember like when I was learning Vedic on my own, like I had a million indications of a super long life. Like there's like this there's like this checklist of like 5 or 6 things that if you had all of them, you're gonna live a really long life. And I've heard from every other astrologer that I'll have a really long life. So for me, it's just been like a wake up call that if I live in like a lower vibratory state, like, yeah, that could happen.
Maybe you'll get Alzheimer's at 70 and then you'll die that way. And you'll live for maybe 20 years longer just without any memory of yourself.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping science improves by then. No, but like I think
that's a good point.
I think it's just like, I look at I was telling you before, like at synchronicities, like I got my hair cut yesterday and I told you like for my hair dyed and cut, there's like a 20-minute period where this one guy who cut my head said I was like balding. And it was like for 15 minutes, I was like, what the fuck? Like, no, I'm not. But like I couldn't see. And then when I actually went back to my hairdresser, the girl who colored my hair, she was like, no, you're not at all. I don't know why he said that. Like, what the fuck, But that plus this, yeah, it kind of like has put stuff into perspective of like, I'm 31 and like, yeah, I can live a life of just like not following my dharma and like what I'm here to do. But that's probably going to end up with me not being very satisfied. And one of those points of not being satisfied is probably how long I live, So.
Yeah. So did she tell you anything on how yogis prolong their life, or is that a future meeting?
That's a good question. Well, she showed us when we interviewed her in our last episode about her yogi who's 800 and something years old, which I feel like most people won't even believe that, but I totally do. He lives in the Himalayas and just hasn't moved. But
lived.
Yeah, who knows what that is? Do you think he's actually 800?
Yeah, definitely. I do believe it. I do believe there's spiritual practices that can like extend your life. I've read about it in many different places, and yogic texts, Egyptian texts, and it's all based on the principle that you're sustained by prana, which is ether. You know, it's like the energy that kind of is the opposite of decay. It's the opposite of entropy, and
Life
our
force.
cells, yeah, exactly. So our natural cells, kind of in this Kali Yuga time, are more inclined, are more gravitated towards entropy instead of this etheric pranic energy, which is so abundant when we're young. And like the Taoists say that we have a set amount in our body, and if we use it up, that's when we die. So if you can refill that and replenish that energy, then theoretically you could continue living. And in these Egyptian texts, they say that what they do is that every 1,000 or something years, they return to this place called the Duat, which is like this underworld kind of place. And they sit in the energy of like the underground river, which is this eternal space place of energy.
Yeah.
And they refill their bodies. So they meditate and refill their bodies with energy before going back out. So there's
Huh.
this, I think it's like a spiritual metaphor in terms of like being able, you're going down and drawing that energy back up into your body and charging yourself. It's kind of like a body charger.
Wow. Yeah, man. That's really, that resonated very, like a lot of that's very true, because I definitely think like when you said Kali Yuga, like, yeah, the current time. So this is how I thought of it. Like the current time, like if me is just an example, guys, because this is, I had the reading. So this is just an example. Like we all have our own stuff. Like if I go down this road that's kind of in sync with like our current society and all of like the energy around,
Mm,
right? Unless
mm,
the whole idea is finding the energy within yourself where you can go to a place like you mentioned of like of rejuvenation, the people you surround yourself with, right? She mentioned for me like the potential of having heartbreaks and having like issues with the heart, because like you know everything that's physical is also somatic, and how
mm.
that would ultimately probably lead to like difficulty. But like by going a different route, a spiritual route, you kind of bypass that in a way, right? You can do that, like these practices you're talking about where you're doing different breathing practices that are restoring your cells. And you know, for example, let's say like a really tough situation comes up, but maybe because of your advancement spiritually, you don't put
Yeah.
yourself in the situation. Either A, you don't put yourself in a situation to go through it, but if it's so fated, maybe you just accept it way more and don't suffer as much, right? Maybe like if it's like a heartbreak, maybe you just see it and you feel it and then you heal from it faster, right?
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah,
see
exactly.
some silver lining, or like maybe this is, I
Yeah,
don't know.
it's like if there's someone who has kind of lived unconsciously their whole life and doesn't have any practice, and they go through some sort of disease or chronic illness that will eventually lead them to death, and they're also in a mindset that believes purely in science and rationale, and they're like, okay, I'm going to trust this doctor, I'm going to fucking die in 2 months, right? Or like I'm going to die in a year, and that's all I have. And if they continue to hold that belief system, it's most likely that they're going to do it. And you see people with more, even if you just have a positive mindset, like minus spiritual experiences, like even just a positive mindset can get you through an illness compared to someone with a negative mindset. And when you pair it with a spiritual practice, then that there's no kind of telling what could get you past it.
Yeah, man, exactly. Yeah, so like kind of back to the whole thing with death, like you know, like it's true, our Western society does look at that really in a negative light. And I think a lot of people would hate to hear you're going to die on this day. But I definitely also thought of it more in that way of like, you know, this like I like when she told me that, even though she's a very powerful astrologer, I didn't take it as like I'm gonna die at that day. It wasn't like some dun 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 like I have until this day. It was more of like, okay, how does that correlate with what I've been hearing, you know, with other synchronicities, other messages from the universe? It's saying that like one, the woman that I have around me or whatever relationship I'm in is going to affect me a lot. And I need to be very careful of who I keep close to me, right? In terms of the energy of people, because I'm very sensitive to that stuff. Even if I have like a harder exterior, is another thing she said, I still am sensitive, which means that
Mm,
it actually will affect my ability to live a long life.
Mm.
And just stuff like that, just like it's more it's like probabilities, probabilities. If I go
Yeah.
one way, that's going to happen. So it's more motivation for me to like go a different way that's more pure, I guess, and more healthy.
Yeah, and definitely like what you said earlier is like scientific advancement, because like I've heard that I was watching this TED talk, and I read this scientific paper that's kind of been buried, and it was this banned TED talk, and it was this scientist who figured out that he could shatter pancreatic cells and shatter pancreatic cancer cells and destroy the cancer cells using only sound frequency. So
Wow.
he found the frequency of the cancer cell, and then he found a frequency that would destroy it, but leave the rest of the body completely fine. And there's this whole new advancement in kind of science leaning towards vibration, which is what the yogis and mystics have been talking to us about this whole time. And Tesla as well, Nikola Tesla, he was like, not Elon Musk,
Yes.
Nikola Tesla was like, if you want to find out the secret to the universe, you have to think in terms of energy and vibration. And
Yes.
We're in an age right now where we have big pharmaceutical companies who are kind of who are in control of everything, who don't want these kind of alternative or new scientific discoveries or rediscoveries of old scientific methods
The oldest,
to
right?
come through. Yeah, exactly. And so they're kind of buried right now, but we have the science to heal us and to get us through these chronic illnesses, but greed is just kind of taken over. But there's so much potential, and I feel like in 40 years there might be a
Jesse
good
will
shift.
be dead. Yeah, and that's exactly why I'm not tripping. It's like, it's like, are you gonna believe in that? Because if I believe in that, you are what you believe. So if I believe that, I'm fucked. I'm gonna die at that age, But like, if I believe that's just a trans, because I know astrology too. I might not be a Vedic astrologer, but I understand what she saw. She saw that Saturn, which is a lot of times, very karmic. It has to do with endings at times, and time it has to do with time. And Ketu, which is a very wrathful kind of all over the place energy in Vedic astrology, how those coming together could be a very crazy time. But also, like, if I'm drinking alcohol and fucking like horrible and like a heartbroken at that age and have no one, no family, no friends, no meaning, like, yeah, I'll probably pass away. But if I know about it, if I know and that's why astrology is so amazing, that I know that that's coming, I can prepare for it. I can figure out how do I make it so my life doesn't go there. And by the time I get to that age, I'm thriving physically, spiritually, in every way, mentally, emotionally, all.
Exactly. It's just like, even with a less impactful astrological transit, let's say it's not something about death, but let's say it's a big Saturn transit. And if you're spiritually equipped and you've dealt with fear and you've processed shadows and you understand that energy, you're going to be able to navigate and walk through it way more, how do you say it? Way more artistically, way more
gracefully too.
Gracefully, yeah, that's the word. Than someone who's just going through life unconscious from job to job, thing to thing, and not really taking into consideration what's going on.
Exactly. And also, like, other things she said in the reading, I'm not going to go too far into it, but like, it just like, it was so spot on with like, it's just these multiple, I don't want to say two different roads, but everyone has so many different roads. And, everyone listening can probably think about like two roads you have in your own life, where it's like the higher one and the lower one, right? And sometimes the lower one looks completely fine. Like for me, the lower one could be symbolized as like the traditional marriage life, where I have an amazing house, amazing car, money, whatever luxuries I want, a good look, beautiful wife, good kids. Maybe, I'm not saying that is to me, but maybe that to me is the lower route because it's not what my soul wants. It's not why I'm here. Maybe to someone else, that's the highest route, right? So astrology also helps us kind of get clues into that. For me, it's like, it's not about that it's about if I'm of service to humanity. If I'm not, then that's going against my North Node. Like for you, the North Node's Libra 12th house, right? So you're here to like to take the cosmic energy, the cosmic messages, and put them into elegant words and meanings that other people can understand in a sociable way, right? Venusian way almost.
Yeah, definitely. That Venus energy. Yeah, even when I have spiritual talks, a lot of the time I need it presented in a Venusian way to absorb it, compared to someone who would, presented more of a sun or more of a Martian way or Plutonian way. This Venus energy, which is very artistic, creative, spiritual. Some would say feminine.
Yeah.
It
Passive,
it absorbs in my psyche a lot better.
And you are a fucking Libra. Like,
yeah.
what is it? 20? You're rounded up to a Libra. Man, that's like a debate whether you're a Libra or a Virgo. That's crazy. Like you're 20. What is it? Like 29.50 Virgo. Jesus.
Yeah, a lot of like I read this literally just the beginning of the Harmonics of the Spheres astrology book, and they said in it there's a debate in terms of like rounding, because they say if you're like 29.002 degrees, it means you should round up to 30.
I think you're meant to be like both, dude. Like I think you're like, and I think that your moon's already in Virgo. I think they're far enough away, your moon and your sun, to make it seem like you're not meant to be a new moon baby. Like someone who's like born with like sun at 8 Capricorn and moon at 6 Capricorn, for example. Like, I don't know. I feel like what's your astrology? It's like, yeah, Libra, Virgo, Scorpio rising, Scorpio Mars. It's like those are your 3 energies, and you can throw in Aquarius if you want to have a 4th because of the 11th house stuff, but not really. Those are like the 3 I would say.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how can you use those 3 to create? What's the archetype, or what's the relation between Libra, Virgo, and Scorpio, right?
Yeah, and Scorpio is ruled by Mars, right?
Yeah, so your chart ruler is Mars, and your Mars is in Scorpio. So it's a super strong Mars placement.
Yeah. And Virgo, Mercury, and Libra, Venus, right?
Mercury, I think you have in Libra, Venus in Libra. Yeah.
No, my Mercury is in Virgo? Or no, Libra.
Libra. It's on your North Node. But anyways, we're getting
too
far in what just happened.
So what was another thing she said? It was something about how a name can affect kind of your vibration and how people refer to you. Like, even we have a friend who has who changed their name, and some people were like, actually you should change it back, because some psychics were like, you should change it back because of the vibration that it's holding.
Yeah. Are you talking about Inadel?
Oh yes, now. Thanks.
Fuck. Well, I thought there's other people. I was like, fuck, who else? I feel like we know other people that have changed names. Yeah. Oh yeah, she did say about how psychics stole that. Yeah, I think that like so based on my astrology chart, she was like, you should go with someone with a name that starts with U. So that's what also what's interesting is that like she told me like different metals. Like, thank God she's like, you should only wear gold. And I used to wear silver, but I have my like my fucking gold necklace that was a lot of I paid I paid a lot of money for it at a certain time, but I've worn it every single day since. So I think it's been 4 years now. I've worn it every day or something. But yeah, like tons of different things. But she said I should have a name that starts with U. So I was like, Udapur. So maybe right now we can come up with my new name.
All right, let's figure it out. Should we channel some divine energy to see what Jesse's spiritual name is, starting with the U?
Uganda.
Jesse's secretly a brother.
I am. I'm very in touch. I love Africa, and I get really offended. You've seen how offended I get at racism. Like, I'm not like some fucking like one of these American people that pretends to like love black people. Like, I get like fucking pissed when people diss black people. You've seen it, right? Like I get like, especially when I'm drunk, like if someone says some shit about black people, I fucking like other races. I'm like, I don't really care as much. Sounds bad, but like I just get pissed when there's racism towards blacks. So maybe I am black. I've always felt connected to African Americans more than like white Americans when I lived there.
I think it's because a lot of the time white Americans
suck
can have a fakeness, whereas the African experiences seems like so real, you know, so true. It's like
so spiritual too, you know, like in their own way, so full of spirit.
All right, so a name with you. Let's go in. You can continue to talk while I try and figure this one out for you.
Udaipur, like Harold Balder and Bald and Bankrupt. Escape. If you guys haven't seen that video on YouTube, Escape from Udaipur, Bald and Bankrupt, the travel vloggers. Okay, never mind. That's a good one to watch if you guys are interested in India, like me and Trey are. It's a very funny episode. But yeah, it was just a really interesting reading. I kind of, when you started talking about Nikola Tesla, though, like I had this image in my head where it's like, you should talk about Tesla and we should name this episode Nikola Tesla. I kept thinking about like how that should be.
Okay, yeah, Nikola Tesla and Jesse knows when he's going to die. Jesse's death.
Jesse's
what about,
what
about Umak?
Umak, dude. It sounds like the Pokemon Onyx, like that big rock dinosaur.
Yeah. The image I had in my head was like you as like this ancient Sumerian like warrior guy who also just like is fucking built and just has a lot of woman, gets a lot of pussy.
Yeah, like Danny. These guys.
Yeah, so if you want to get a lot of pussy and get ripped, that's your new spiritual name, Umak.
There's a lot of Turkish names that start. So this is gonna be my new name, guys.
Urzgul, Uzgal, Uzgi, Uzi.
Lil Uzi.
Urian.
What's the worst one? Okay, I found a bunch of Turkish names with you. Oof, you. Oh yeah, I met this guy in Turkey when I was there. His name was Ufuk, U-F-U-K, and it's just like I kept like you fuck, what's up, bro? Is it U-F-U-K? But it's like Ufuk or so. I forget how it's pronounced.
Ufuk.
I was like, I kept calling him you fuck, man.
That's like the Thai names, you know how when they're said out loud, it sounds like English body parts.
How about ulcer? Ulcer, you fuck. I like
that name. That name, you're definitely gonna die at 70. It's like everyone calls you ulcer, and you're just gonna get a fucking big ulcer.
Yeah. Another Turkish name is Umut, but like there's a football player in France everyone made fun of, or soccer, wherever you're listening, called Umut Bulut. Umut Bulut, and all my friends made fun of his name, Umut Bulut, because it just sounds so funny. Fuck. Ulku, Ulker, Uluch, Ufuk, Ulu. I like you fuck.
You fuck. That's pretty deep.
Wait,
what about
Uyghur, like the people in China who are repressed. It starts with a U and it's on my list. I could be Uyghur and represent those people. Fuck China for doing that.
Or Umi.
Dude, Uze. Uzay.
Uze. Or Uzef. Or Uraz. Uzaf.
Uzdaf. How about Uraz Uzdaf? All our listeners are like, all right, peace.
All right.
Fast forward through this part. Okay, so I'm going with You said Uzak?
Uraf. Uzar. Uzarion.
Ooh, let's make it long. Uzarion Fajlikak. Fajlikak, maybe not. Uzay Ugyur Unal. Umut. Sounds so Turkish. Fuck.
Urut Alam Jahale.
Urut means ugly in Romanian.
Urut. Yeah, that's that. Urut. Yeah, Ionella will like that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well,
Maybe
moving
we'll
on.
put
We'll find Jesse's spiritual name eventually, and we'll let everyone know.
Yeah, and comment
Maybe.
if you guys have some ideas. It has to start with you for me to have superpowers.
Yeah.
Ugly.
We want to.
Ugly urat. Urs, which means bear in Romanian. Urs.
Yeah. Urs.
Ugly bear. ugly fucked up bear. There you go.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah,
We got it. Nailed that shit.
That's it. And then that makes me sound very homosexual because bear, right? Bear is like the fat gay people, right? Being a bear.
Is that a thing?
Yeah,
Really?
like in the gay community, you ever seen that? It's like someone who's like they have names for different types of people. So if you're very overweight, or not very overweight, just people who are bigger and very hairy. Like I'm very hairy. So if I was fat, I'd be a bear. If I was gay and fat.
Right. Oh, okay.
So ugly gay fat bear. There we are.
Please excuse us for that slight diversion. I hope you can still find it in your heart to like and subscribe to us. We promise we're not this weird all the time. Hope you're having a good time listening to the Jesse and Trey podcast, and let the show resume.
God, okay.
Wow.
And by the way, guys, shout out to gay people.
That took a turn.
Yeah, shout out to gay people. Shout out to everyone. We're just joking around. Don't get mad. We're very chill people with good beliefs. So, yeah. Anyways, so what we were saying, Nikola Tesla. I said to throw that disclaimer.
Nikola Tesla. The father of free energy. If we went down that timeline, the world would be a very different place today.
Murdered by the pharmaceutical companies, the powers of be.
Pharmaceuticals, more like he had some extremely revolutionary ideas and changed our world. And then he was deemed crazy at some point. And then when he died, in which no one really knows how he dies. Some people say he was killed. Some people say he committed suicide. Some people say he drug overdosed. But what happened, though, at the end is that the government took all his scientific notes and all his plans and all his blueprints, and they took it, and now it's gone. And so now we don't have Tesla's work.
Fuckers. Yeah. And what's like your biggest, like when you apply it to your everyday, like even it doesn't have to be directly linked to his work, but like what are a few examples like where what you've learned from Nikola Tesla, if you can answer it, whatever, like how it affects your way of thinking about different things in life and whatnot?
Yeah. So, I mean, Nikola Tesla studied a lot in the Indian spiritual teachings and ancient Egypt. And he dove really deep into the pyramids and how they were kind of a machine structure. And he kind of modeled a lot of his machines off of that. And
can I say really quickly, guys, if anyone wants to learn more about that, watch the Pyramid Code series. It's on YouTube. It's free. And it actually explains how the pyramids were more of an industrial, kind of like how we would have like a dam or like a power plant today than anything used for like, looking good or anything. It's more utility verse. Go ahead, Jahar.
Yeah, I mean, I actually saw these Egyptian guys who were testing different stones for electromagnetic conductivity. And the inside of the pyramids, which were all built in limestone, were extremely conductive for electromagnetic energy. And the outside was layered with insulative stone, an insulative sheath. And yeah, so there's a lot of theories going on about that. But for me, Nikola Tesla, his biggest impact on me is just his whole view of the universe, as it's almost like a shamanic view that everything is alive and aware, and there's energy everywhere. He said there's an infinite source of energy right here for us to tap into. we don't need nuclear, we don't need solar. All of this is really primitive stuff. And he had the means to extract this energy. And I think he was tapping into the ether and this like vibratory realm. And he said everything is vibration, which takes us into kind of what the monks were doing, which is something called sonic levitation. And there's all these theories about how these ancient civilizations with their primitive tools could lift such like huge rocks that were like thousands, hundreds of tons, like huge.
Yeah.
Like everyone just comes up with the same old concept that they had tens of thousands of slaves, which was not true. And there's this one explorer. Okay, he's a scientist, and in his later years, he explored around Tibet. And he had an old Tibetan friend that he'd been writing letters to for a long time. And this guy invited him to his place, which was, no one had been there from the West. So it was very remote. And one day while he was staying there, the monks invited him to come out and watch something. And when he did, there was this huge procession of monks all carrying these really long, like tubes that were like trumpets. Okay. So there's really long trumpet like tubes, and there was different sizes. And what they did was there was this stone on this altar, and they began to blow these trumpets, these like very deep, there were some very deep ones, some higher ones, and then a bunch of them also began to chant. And what this guy recorded, and he even recorded on video, was what they did was they levitated this huge stone using sound and frequency and mantra, and levitated it across this valley and onto the other side of a mountain. And he had this apparently recorded, but when he got back to the West, the organization he worked for took all those recordings and hid it, but we still know about it because he wrote about it in his journals, and we have those journals. So and now in modern day, we have something called sonic levitation, where scientists are literally learning how to levitate objects using sound, and it's even coming into the medical field. So there's a huge interplay with vibration and energy that we still don't really understand or grasp.
Wow. Yeah, man. Because I remember like reading different texts, like my image of like the pyramids being built is like these masters, like wizards and stuff, like floating on rocks and shit, like being like not even like being able to like figure out like everything about the rocks and the structure, where they could use a sound to melt the stone. Because if you look at the pyramids, there's no cracks within any of the pyramid, the holes. It's like it's all these random shapes of rock, right? And it's almost like and like it'll be one that's shaped like this, and the next one is perfectly with all the curvature, so there's no space where like not even a drop of water could penetrate it. And it's because they're able to like with sound, like not only get it to float and to move into the places they wanted to move it, but also to completely change its matter and make it liquid, probably, or whatever they did to make it fit perfectly. So fascinating stuff.
Yeah, really cool. I can't wait for kind of science to progress. We're in a medieval age right now where we have censorship on a lot of things by, kind of, big powers who just want to continue making money, to continue ruling the world through greed. But as we're moving out of this lower Kali Yuga cycle and we're rising up towards the golden age, it'll take a while, but we're rising up. As we are, more of these things will begin to become unveiled again for us and for the collective. And the big powers will start to lose their power. And as they do, we'll start to we're going to take some huge leaps in science and the recombination of kind of spiritual ideals.
Yeah, for sure. And God has time, like you can't beat God. God will do what God wants to do, and in the timing that he wants to do it in. So, or he or she, if you want to have or they. I don't even know that. But yeah, so
Zim.
what do you say about God? I don't want to call it it. That's kind of God, whatever.
Yeah, I just say source, you know. I was
Source.
it's all, everyone has different names for it.
Yeah.
You
But
and me.
anyways, yeah, so it's like, yeah, there's everything is energy, and I think that's kind of what we were talking about before, is moving from linear thinking to vertical thinking, right? Like when I got that reading from that astrologer in Shasta, he kept reminding me of like the whole idea of vertical, not thinking about time linearly, thinking about it vertically, right? Where everything is happening on the same continuum. And to kind of like try to get to kind of, it's like a big part of life is like, how can I uncondition myself? Because it's like we're all computers that have been programmed with fucked up software, right? That's outdated as fuck, that doesn't actually have any relation to the real truth. And our first goal, number one, is like, how can I deprogram, right? Goal one is like, figure out my programming so I can then goal two, deprogram. And then when you're able to get to a place of deprogrammization, which takes time, it's like, it's not like you can learn everything about how you're programmed, but you need to actually like meditate or do whatever, gain more self-awareness. So you see yourself going into your little tendencies and calling yourself out. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm going into this way of programming. And it takes time. But then after that, when you finally strip away all the edges and levels of that, then you can start to build yourself with this new kind of philosophy or way of being, right?
Yeah.
And what is that process called? It's not individualization, is it?
And it's more like self-actualization is kind of, I think, the term that's been floating around. And it's like, I was thinking about this the other day. You know how like scientists or scholars will spend so much time, their whole life, hours and hours every day, like just studying one particular thing or going so deep into one thing. And what I find spirituality is literally, you are a scientist, except you're doing this internal discovery. You're investigating your own potential as a being, as existence. And by doing that, you have to go through all these hypotheses, all these like all these goals and aims, and you have to uncover, dissect, experiments, practices, and you're only really going to get somewhere. You can go slowly, right? You can have a scientist who just is slowly doing that, but the real thing is when you're going at it, like, these yogis, these sages are like the top scientists of their field, which is like self-discovery and self-actualization and kind of the uncovering of human potential and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in today's world, like us humans, we take so much of a stance of like, I have to be an expert in one thing, like, oh, spirituality, I'm not a meditator, oh, I'm not a spiritual person, I'm a lawyer or whatever, it's like, but spirituality is asking us to let go of all these logos or these whatever they're called, these labels that we give ourselves, that we attach to ourselves, and say, I am an alchemist, I'm a human being, and I have the right to go towards anything that interests me in any way, right? If there's anything that interests you, you need to get rid of that mindset of like, just because you might not be an expert and there's always going to exist people who are better than you at a certain subject, that doesn't mean you have to study it. Like maybe, I have more ability in astrology than Trey right now, but that doesn't mean he can't learn a lot and catch up to me, and vice versa for different things, right? So it's like, that's the wrong attitude. We want to like look at people who know a lot and think, how can we learn from this person? Not just knowledge, right? Energies too. If like, you're someone that has a lot of, just random example, Leo energy in your chart, or just, but you lack that water, like we talked about in Cosmos, lacking different elements. Okay, then you start hanging out with someone who's like a bunch of Cancer, Pisces, and you start to take those things in, and then you get better at developing those different archetypes within yourself, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like, and also so many people kind of label spirituality as something that is, you know, not possible. It's for, you know, a lot of people say we use spirituality as a way to cope in like psychology, you know, because we need some sort of understanding to make us feel better, like of some higher power. But
Yeah,
when
so
we
super
really take a look at our experience as humans, we only experience a visible spectrum of light through like from like 1 degree to another degree. So we're literally looking through a scope, right? We can only
yeah,
see light from this range to this range. And then in terms of hearing, we can only hear from this range to this range. So we're literally in a tunnel of experience through our senses. And
Yeah.
everything, even our taste, our touch is limited to this very specific orientation of life. And what's happening is that yoga and meditation is the science of the unquantifiable, whereas you know, normal scientific methods are quantifiable. We have proof, we have physical experimentation, but this physical experimentation is within the limitation of our senses. It's within the limitation of this range that we're stuck within. And what this, if you look at the actual practices of yoga and meditation, what are we doing? We're doing different breathing patterns that literally alter the chemistry of our body. We're doing different movement and mental visualizations that can release specific chemicals. This is all physical, real things that are happening. There's nothing kind of out there about it. And once you start to practice these things, then you begin to have experiences that are unquantifiable. And these unquantifiable experiences go outside of our range. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to understand through physical practices, breathing, you know, meditation, like what experience is like outside of our senses. And yeah, I think
Wow.
well
Well
that's
said.
where my train of thought ended.
Oh, that was really fucking deep. Holy fuck. Yeah, man. And I thought of like how we get like little glimpses of this. Yeah, it's like we're in this little. I got the very clear image. Like we're in this little tunnel. It's like God, source, whatever program. Okay, so this is like the potential of what you could possibly hear. We only have 6 senses. What if there's fucking 33,080 million different types of senses? Like, what if
Yeah.
seeing is just one random sense, like that's as significant as like like how your left third toe sweats. I don't fucking know what that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's what if it's like it's just so like sight is nothing, but just to us humans we think it's such a big thing. Like there's a million
Yeah.
different senses, a million different ways. Like why do we not experience, like what if there's another alien or being that experiences life through intuition and through like licking or something, you know, or through like I don't even know. Like there's a million different ways. So it's like we have this tiny potential of reality that's maybe like, you know, 1%, if that. Who knows? I'm not going to even try to quantify it. And then you know, once in a while, if you do like people from psychedelics or have spiritual like astro projecting stuff like that, whatever it is, you get little glimpses, just tiny glimpses of the unquantifiable. And from that point on, it's very hard for you to go back into your world of like science and everything, you know, everything is false unless it's proven to be true, kind of empirical way of being, when you've actually experienced, even if it's just for a glimpse, what's immeasurable. And you just know that everything that's like all of that stuff is BS, right?
Yeah. And it's like neuroscientists trying to understand our brain when only looking in the third dimension of reality. Like
Yeah.
what if we exist in multiple dimensions? What if the secret to consciousness or our brain functions and our brain chemistry is in the quantum realm? We haven't even scratched the surface of that. And how do we even really how do we even measure something that doesn't relate to any of the physical laws that that are here? So it's like the laws that apply in the quantum realm don't work. I mean, our laws here in terms of gravity, everything else, and time and the relationship between everything doesn't work when we get there. What happens when we go up another dimension or zoom out further? See, like this is how we've defined our reality within a narrow scope. and we haven't taken into consideration much larger things.
Yeah, even like that book, Many Life, Many Masters, with the past life therapy. It's like that girl in the book, the patient, she had all of this trauma, no doctors could help her, and then she started getting past life like regression therapy on accident, and it completely healed all of her symptoms. So it's like, mainstream science wouldn't even acknowledge the existence of past lives, but this is actually like, who knows how much of like whatever people are presenting with psychologically, trauma wise. Like for me, dude, I have trauma in my chart, but I didn't have a traumatic childhood, like I didn't, I just didn't. And I came into this life with a trauma. So it's like, this is me as an example. Like I had therapists and stuff my whole life who like kept like trying to like relate, like, oh, this is something to do with your father. No, I got to a point of understanding astrology. Like, no, fuck no. It's like Pluto's on my IC square, my fucking South Node. Like the South Node's past life, Pluto's trauma on the IC. The IC is the past, Like I have past life trauma that is not related to this life. So it's like, imagine how fucking much money and time was wasted or could have been wasted, like going down that route. And like, I could have created narratives like my dad's this terrible person. Like, no, he's not, So it's like, that's just one small example of like how, our science today doesn't leave enough room open to the unknown. They're just like, we have to figure it out. It has to be something. Why can't you just, and that it goes back to meditation, the whole idea of like sitting with not knowing, sitting with being unsure, right? Not having to like just sitting with uncertainty and enjoying it almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's really cool about like Jung psycho kind of therapy is that it's almost like
Carl Jung, you're talking about?
Carl Jung, like I think real therapy, like in the end, the therapist isn't doing anything, and the revelations that if they are revealing something about the current life, instead, I would think, to give you tools for you to explore your own unconscious through the dreams, through dream worlds or something, and interact with your own unconscious. And how are you supposed to quantify that? And yet there's so much proof that people, like, emotional release happens when they confront these kind of dream images, or they go through, like, even when I started astral projecting, the first time that happened to me, and after it started happening for a while, I stopped fearing death just through an experience that outside of my own physical body. I was like, because of that, the fear of death vanished from my body. And I used to be so scared of death. Like my friend, I had this one friend called Chris, and we used to be so scared of death. Like sometimes we'd freak each other out by bringing it up. And we could like not even think about it. Like I remember, like I'm like, no, stop! I'm like, stop talking about it. I don't want to think about what happens after that.
I had that too in my book. It's my first chapter of my book. After the biography, I talk about how it ruled my life. But did you have this feeling of like, dude, I would have like I could be having a great night out, and then I would smoke weed. It was like when I stopped smoking weed like 10 years ago because it started giving me like schizophrenic type. Read my book if you're interested, guys. But basically, I would get these shocks that came to me. Like, it's like I hadn't thought about my mortality or death in so long. And then I would just it's like I got like this shattered glass out of nowhere. And I would just be like stunned, like, oh, fuck, Yeah. And then I would go into this crazy train of thought. Like I could be in the middle of like a party smoking where I'm just like so scared, dude. Like everything, like, oh, fuck, like I've been having fun for like the last month, living in the moment. And oh shit, nothing matters. I'm going to fucking die. And it was that serious, dude. It was like, it led to my drug addiction. It led to me trying to escape that. That was like my life became, I kind of reveal this in the book. Like, I honestly think my life became trying to escape through drugs and alcohol and just doing stuff all the time, that feeling of meaninglessness. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it is so crazy how just like one simple fear can lead to so many things. Like, you could justify kind of drug addiction through poor choices or through physical events that happened in your life, but really it's a psychological thing. And the fear of death, even if you haven't confronted that or haven't really faced that, there's people who say that it is the root of all fear. The fear
Wow.
of death is the root of all fear. And once you can fully overcome that, there's no more fear around anything else. And I mean, of course, they're not saying like you're gonna suddenly, just jump off a mountain because you don't care. You're not scared about dying. It's like instead of not jumping off the mountain because you're scared of dying, you don't jump off the mountain because you're in love with life and you understand the kind of beauty of life and the magic that it means to incarnate in this weird perspective.
Yeah, man. Exactly. Like I remember having just like, yeah, it was sad to think about like how many people must, because like you don't have anything in society that's telling you otherwise, and even adults in America and like all over the Western world, they haven't matured spiritually. So like you would hope to be able to look towards an adult. Of course, I had my mom, who during the like she actually always had her beliefs, but like it was still hard for me to grasp, because as a young kind of naive teenager or kid, like you kind of have this feeling, oh, my parents are just crazy, they just are using this to kind of like feel good about like people, like how all like teenagers and kids like, oh, my parents are stupid, they just use religion or spirituality to feel good, like about like their mortality. It's just no, but like that's what you think. So yeah, it was fucked. I just remember like having those periods of time and just thinking about my existence being like such a like mini like meaningless of like all these other humans and stuff, and just and this whole expansion period for me since the rehab has like really been like, that was one of the first things I learned at Naropa, was that class where I got into that group project where we were studying death, and that really was like what started to transform me and led to me like really like, oh shit, like there's things about after like near death experiences. There's show correlation between the near death experiences and what the mystics and psychics of people's direct experience. And I go even deeper. I'm like, oh shit, there's an actual study by the University of Virginia that is showing kids that remember their past lives and who can even recall who they were verified as like someone who like died like a World War II, whatever, like different, like who can recall like who they were married to and all the events of their past incarnation, right? Little things like that added up, and I just started reading tons of books, Destiny of Souls, stuff like that. And I was like, man, especially Many Lives, Many Masters was the one that really shook me up and was like the real, like, I felt like it was like the orgasm of all orgasms when I read that book.
Like, because with reading is like, when you read something and your whole body like tingles or understands something, it's you remembering. So there's people, who will have experiences like out of body experiences, which will teach them this is like, this body is not the only thing. But then there's there's other people who will get all their information through reading books. They'll remember through it, and it's more a very physical, grounded life. And when you read something and it hits you in a way that you're resonating, like, oh shit, like you've gotten a realization from it. It's your body and your cells and your DNA remembering something. And that's kind of, this is how the body works. It has a natural compass. It has like, when you hear something that makes your whole body kind of shiver or tingle, then that means there's something there, and you've kind of just remembered or received a like
spirit
upgrade
download.
Or download, exactly,
or a message from your guides. And like I feel like in our society we kind of push like I think someone from our group was saying like how she used to think all her intuitions, I can relate, all the thoughts she had, she didn't realize a lot of those were downloads. So she thought they were just like random stupid thoughts. But like when you start to actually like connect the dots and think like, hey, like if I meditate and like how, like think, like you start to really think like, how do I come up with ideas, right? How do ideas come to my head? How do you come up with ideas? How do I be sitting here one day and I think about a random fucking person, like that girl I told you about earlier, like the weird story, like how the fuck did that come to me? Like that was so random. How does an idea come to me even when I'm sleeping or whatever, like that makes me want to inspire to do something? Like so many ideas that are planned. I believe that there's, we all have a connection to our spirit guides, right? So by being open to thinking like, oh, this isn't just a crazy thought, this is potentially a download with spiritual connection, like spiritual significance from higher above, it opens up a whole new world, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so like this kind of leads us into like psychic communication and psychic. And so in the golden age, where they say everyone was psychic, we were communicating. We didn't need words or written things to remember because we were tapped into a collective understanding. We were tapped into Akasha, which is this universal record of everything that is. So we didn't need to write things down. We everything was oral. It was this tradition of just like knowing everything. And, you know, it can sound really out there, and psychicness can sound really out there, but let's kind of demystify and put it into very practical terms. I know that everyone listening and most people out there, even if you're the most non-believing person in the world around psychic abilities, has thought about someone and then a second later they call, right?
Yeah, everyone.
And or let's say you're hanging out with a friend and you said something and then your friend was like, yo, dude, I was just about to say that. Or like, I was just about to say that. Or you took the thought out of my head. Like
finishing each other's words and stuff.
It's really easy to brush this off as coincidence. But after it starts happening over and over again, it's like, this isn't just coincidence. Right now, in the base of Kali Yuga, in our experiences right now, we are primitive. And this is our primitive mind psychically communicating with one another. So we're still like cavemen in terms of psychic communication, but we have physical proof of this happening. We have very little bits here and there. Or let's say we dream about someone and then the next day they show up at our house. Or
Deja vu.
We dream about our grandmother and they die. Yeah, deja vu. This has all happened to most people, and we're having psychic experiences quite regularly. And it normally happens when you're really connected with someone. Like if you have a really good friend, then that will happen more often. So so there is like a collective thought sphere, and we're at the very like bottom right now in terms of our collective experience with it all. But as we progress upwards, we're going to start noticing more and more of these things happening, more synchronicities happening, more, you know, strange coincidence quote occurring.
Totally, yeah. It's all part of it. And we get glimpses, you know, and it's just about trying things on, being intellectually curious, you know, and like, you know, there's an infinite possibility of things that could be correct. And I think the more we're moving into this age, like there's always going to be the people who are going to like, you know, and I'm stubborn in my own way, but we all, you know, a lot of people are stubborn in their own way. Like for me, it's like, I don't really listen. Like very few people can like tell me like to do something. But like, there's some people that are stubborn intellectually, you know, and there's always going to be those people, but with time, it's going to be way harder to be like that in regards to like spiritual, like kind of the stuff we're talking about, if that makes sense. 1 second, Trey, talk.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, sure. Yeah. So as we are progressing towards the golden age, we will begin you'll see already, there's so many people, even on TikTok, there's this whole phenomenon about shifting and reality shifting. And these are these like reality jumpers who say that
on TikTok.
There's this whole big thing called reality shifting. And it's crazy that it's going into the mainstream right now, is this idea of reality shifting. And people, like everyday people, are just starting to hop into this, which is it's under this theory.
Reality shifters on TikTok. Find them. She's obsessed with TikTok. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's this theory that there are infinite timelines and infinite versions of ourselves that live in completely. So there's timelines that are very close to ours, which means we'll be very similar. But there are also timelines that are, you know, completely skewed or fractaled in a different way, where let's say we exist as an entity within Harry Potter world, or we exist as an entity within the world of Star Wars or something like that. We can
I'm R2, bitch.
R2. The theory is that we can shift our conscious awareness to different timelines. So we're experiencing this one right now, you and I, but we can shift our consciousness to a different one and experience that one and return, or we could never return. So, but the thing is, we're experiencing from this perspective, we're experiencing them all as unique timelines, as individuals. But actually, our higher self incorporates all of those timelines as self. So we think of them as separate timelines, but they're almost like different veins within a grander self. So we exist on an infinitude of all these timelines when we really zoom out into a higher perspective.
Wow. Yeah, like all life's happening at once and whatnot.
Yeah, and not just in this timeline, like all life, like this timeline, all life is happening in once, but then there's an infinite amount of timelines that are also all happening at once. And those are all us, but we're only experiencing through the lens of one timeline right now.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of like the whole non-linear thing, right? And it opens your mind up because like it's hard to grasp that. But when you just present yourself with something that is true, that's hard to grasp, you realize, oh shit, maybe there's a lot of stuff that I was created not to be able to grasp. And maybe that's part of this whole thing is that, you know, we're like back to the whole idea of like our limitations and our brains only being, you know, us only having this small percentage of reality. Maybe, you know, I think that there's also like spiritual stuff that we're not created to be able to fully understand with our brains and our just how we are here in Kali Yuga as humans. And it's like
it's through our perspective, because when we're still conditioned, which is why we can't understand it. We're still conditioned into a perspective which is pretty limiting, which is like our sensorial experience, our very kind of current age human experience. This is why we can't understand these things. But as we continue to go down the spiritual path and to continue to, but it's not spiritual path, how we go down to a greater understanding of our universe and our actual evolution as humans, nothing to do with spirituality, we will begin to see that we will begin to grasp larger and larger concepts as we evolve. And I think which means we'll also be stepping into higher and higher planes of awareness. You know, I had a vision once where in school at like the age of 6, we were teaching kids quantum theory. It's like, you know how we teach kids like +2 + 2 is 4 and like simple mathematics. In like the future, as we've evolved, we're going to be teaching them very much things that are advanced for us now are going to be very simple in the future.
Astrology taught in schools. Imagine how good at astrology the world would be if every kid learned it like it was math. Like there would be straight up like astrological genius. Like instead of all these kids in China studying like to fucking pass this bullshit test to be better at corporate world, like or whatever jobs. Imagine they're all studying astrology.
Whew. Yeah, well, honestly,
slash astronomy, slash all science, sacred geometry, all of it that's meaningful, you know.
The reason why a lot of people kind of distrust astrology is because they don't understand really what astrology is in a vibratory universe. And it's not like we've made up it's not like you've made up archetypes for planets and that these planets somehow have an influence on us. It's literally we are existing in a vibratory universe, in a huge blanket tapestry of vibration and frequencies. And these frequencies, we are frequency, and everything around us, even in our universe, even to the other side of the universe and galaxy is affecting us, because also on a quantum level, there is no space between everything. And these frequencies, you know, there's so much proof if you just, you know, ding this little like tuning fork that you can start to alter your mood, your mind, your well-being. And so if we start to think in terms of energy, vibration, frequency, then we'll begin to see how everything is interwoven together.
Yeah, just having the curiosity, right? Because like and having a mind, yeah, I think curiosity is so important, because like I say all the time, like if you enter each day thinking like, oh, I know what's up, I know what's right, I know what's wrong, what the fuck are you gonna do? You're gonna do the same shit
Yeah.
over and over and over, like a fucking rat in a motherfucking wheel.
Yeah.
Stop that shit.
Yeah, because I mean, some people don't want to break out of their bubble. It's like, let's say we introduce like some fucking aliens will come down, and then a lot of people will turn away. It's like that allegory of the shadows, people are chained up into the cave, and then they experience reality only through their shadows. And then when they're shown the real world, they're like, nope, I want to stay here because this is comfortable. This is what I know.
Yeah.
I don't want to. It's too scary to stray away from
And
this.
self-esteem too, right? Because they're like, oh, like they somehow think I don't deserve to know this, or I don't deserve to, yeah.
And this path towards a greater understanding and actually towards your own evolution, which is what is being umbrellaed under the term spirituality. But I literally think it's just a new form of, not a new form, but an old form of scientific, unquantifiable research for your own self. And this evolution is scary. It is hard. It is something that you need courage for, because there are things that you will begin to understand and begin to see that will break your foundation of everything you think is real, because everything you think is real is just constructed by and conditioned by kind of the world we live in. And once you begin to see like, oh shit, everything I know is this is this tiny little thing, and actually I don't know shit. And when you begin to see these huge, like, multi-dimensional machines that kind of govern our universe and our bodies and everything, even just like molecules, they're saying that we perceive through the third dimension, but molecules are actually multi-dimensional things, and they don't actually look like spheres, balls, but because we're only in the third dimension, we're only perceiving them in a certain way. So even everything we see is not what we see, is not what it actually is.
And I think that people have, I kind of lost my train of thought. I had some that texted me. I think people have the thing is, like, here it is. People, like, the ironic thing is that by going in that different direction, in that more spiritual direction with your thought and your mind, the possibilities, and opening yourself up to, you said that things are scary potentially, but like, what are you really moving away from that's so fucking great? You're moving away from like believing death is like the end to everything and meaninglessness. Okay, you don't really have fucking that much to lose, like, it's not like you're moving away from this perfect fucking, and I get it, it's safe, it, but you're fucking miserable. Most people, who are stuck in that, if we're being honest, some GS stuff for your ass.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the syndrome that we have when we fall into homeostasis. Is like, we're in a dead-end job, but we're scared to leave it because we're going to lose our security over life, right?
Yes.
And it's the same thing that we see in most societies. We're scared to break away, like, from our family, or we're scared to break away from societal norms for fear that people will judge us. For fear that we'll end up alone. Let's say we get married to the first person we fall in love with, because we think like, oh, I should be getting married and have kids. And then because your real fear is that you're gonna end up alone. And so we have all these fears that keep us from really kind of exploring all that.
Then it's like, and it's like, okay, but what's so bad about being alone?
Yeah, right.
Like you're afraid to be alone. Like, it blows my mind that people are afraid to be alone. I know I'm an introvert Pisces, but like, I think you're the same way. We're both professionals at being alone, but like, it's like crazy to me to think like for me, I'm more scared to be with people. For me, I'm more scared not to be alone ever. Honestly, like, like obviously being alone fucking sucks. Fuck that. Like no communication with anyone, but like being smothered and not having alone time to me is more scary than alone.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, think like if I die alone, that's like the worst thing possible, right? So it's like you can't like you need that love. And a lot of it is love because you haven't accepted yourself for, a lot of the time your people will accept you. And so you'll seek validation from other people and you haven't found that love for yourself. But once you do, you're like, I could die happy alone. Like, fuck. Like, I would be so happy just to sit on the beach, watch the oceans, and just be fucking alone, tinkering with some weird invention or drawing some weird shit, or just meditating,
Yeah, and to meditate on death. Like I was meditating on my birthday on my solar return. I felt the energy. I'm not gonna say I had like a profound, deep meditation, but like it started like a tradition where every year I want to meditate the exact minute of my solar return, which is your real astrological birthday, which is when the sun returns the exact degree of its natal position. And yeah, like with death, it's like if you have that view of like, this isn't like, okay, this is just like a ceremony, like this is a rite of passage, this is the ending of this, moving to something else, it's kind of takes on a different meaning than just like, oh my god.
Yeah, and this evolution, I think in anything is confronting your fears. And that is a big part of spirituality, which actually becomes brushed over, and why so many people think spiritual life is so annoying is because we have so many people who have adopted spirituality as a personality or an ego instead of actually using it as a tool to kind of dive deeper into reality. And it just becomes like, this mass produced generic personality that you see like clones. Like it's just like how you have the sheep of society, who fall in love with celebrities and do all this. It's just exactly the same, but in the spiritual world. And then they have this big ego that they think they're better than everyone because they eat vegan or they practice yoga. And it is a developmental stage. I will admit it. Like
we have an episode. We have an episode of this, right? I think I don't know which one. It's like spiritual egos. It's like one of our first episodes. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, so it's a developmental stage, just like how kids kind of go through different stages of the ego. When you kind of dive into this, you also, because you don't know anything else, you're relating to reality through your ego. So when you first pick up spirituality, you put on this other extra layer, which is your spiritual ego. And a lot of the time people will use it to get away from their fears, because meditation has a very calming effect if you're doing certain breathing patterns, or like just sitting, or yoga, and you'll use yoga as an exercise to get flexible, or you'll use meditation to make yourself calm, and actually instead of going into the fears that are coming up, you'll be like, no, actually I'm just going to go meditate and run away from your fears. And this is this bypassing of
it's yoga time.
It's yoga time, bitches.
Yeah, it's a bypass. It made me think of like the girl in LA or Boulder who like does yoga just to seem spiritual, but then like completely runs away from all of her problems and like doesn't even think about how like meditating can actually like maybe help her face the shit that she's actually running away from. And the fact that she's doing yoga is like part of this identity of trying to run away from herself in some way. I don't know the fuck.
Yeah. Oh my God. And there's so many guys too. It's like, I mean, a lot of guys there's less guys in the spiritual community, which is why
they're worse.
Which is why you automatically thought of a girl, because it is kind of Venusian energy. So like males are more scared to kind of go into that because
I'm not enjoying your presence right now. Have we told that story on here?
Yeah, we told it.
Oh my God, that's a classic. I want to get that. Can we get that guy on here? Do you have his number?
No.
God, if you guys don't know, Trey was hitting on a girl, or talking to a girl, not hitting on, at a yoga class. I think we've told on here, and
we've told it.
Yeah, this guy comes over to Trey, this older guy who's I guess dating the girl, and says, "I'm not enjoying your presence right now." How would he say it?
Yeah, I'm really not enjoying your presence right now. It's like the most passive aggressive spiritual shit. Like, dude, sort out your jealousy issues first of all, instead of blaming it on me and projecting your unhappiness on my having a simple conversation with someone.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, like that's like he probably wanted to fight you. That's what's kind of funny about it, is that like that's his way of like wanting to fight you. If he was like, I don't know, I just find it really funny. But instead of fighting you, he says, I'm not enjoying your presence right now. Atreya.
Yeah, it's like we start getting into like a heated argument, like, your chakras are so fucking unbalanced, you motherfucker. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta go do some fucking kundalini because your lower chakra is out of whack.
Oh yeah,
like
you're
spiritual dissing.
Yeah, he's like, the fact that you would that you would talk to my girl just shows that your second chakra is so out of balance, and you just want to have sex with every girl that talks. You're also not. You need to go watch some feminists because you're not fucking paying attention to the laws and the rules and how society is towards girls. His head explodes and he becomes a marshmallow, and it's like a marshmallow mouth that's like trying to talk on the ground, and then it just explodes, and then you take his girlfriend back home and have sex with her. That's the ending of my weird show that just played in my head. Jesus Christ.
Exactly. It's like, you need to go on a fucking retreat, man.
Yeah. Shambhala, like, dude. You need to go fucking meditate it up, bro.
Like, do you like not have a guru or something, because your frequency is totally disharmonious?
Or better, I can feel the chicken that you ate last night. Oh my god, I can tell you were eating a tortured animal because you're just so aggressive with my girl. You come over to her and you talk to her with your fucking blonde hair. You disgust me. You fucking disgust me. And your presence is so stern. You're like a balcony, a fucking concrete structure of shit.
Yeah, that guy's a fucking asshole. He totally eats like meat. You can just smell the suffering in his cells. Like,
that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I can feel the slaughtered pig in your fucking horrible rhetoric.
God.
You fucking womanizing, degenerate, meat-eating asshole. I would love to see if spiritual people became like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, they are like that.
I just feel like I was so like in my own world in Boulder that it was like no one could really, I don't know. I was kind of like floating off into like the stars and shit. So I feel like I didn't actually get to really talk to anyone.
I had my foot in both worlds.
Yeah, I was fully,
especially in the beginning, because when I first came to Boulder, my spiritual ego was at its peak. So
it wasn't bad. You just were like a rainbow dude.
Yeah, I was just completely acid personality, not grounded at all. Just
you're very feminine. Like most people thought you were probably like gay or some shit.
They still think that now. Everywhere I go, it's like I get hit on by guys, and the girls are like comfortable to talk with me and think that I'm gay.
There's a guy. Okay, well, let me tell you this, dude. Remember that one time we were doing acid? You wore like mushrooms, and I saw you as like this famous guy in India that was white, and you had like a Lamborghini. You're wearing like Andrea's jacket. It was tiny on you. We were outside smoking or something.
Oh yeah.
I just had this vision, dude. Fucking, there was a guy on this podcast who literally like he gets so many girls. They kind of talk about it, and he basically acts super gay. He's not even joking because he has sisters, right? So he's not even fucking around because he just genuinely knows so much about girl stuff. He's like, okay, he's like, I just know because of my sisters that there's like 11 or 10 different perfumes that most girls wear. And because his sisters wore them all the time, he could just tell. So he just talked, a girl comes up, he's like, oh, so you're wearing Chanel No. 5 or whatever, And he's not even hitting on them, but the way he gets hella good looking girls because they all are not sure if he's gay or not. And they talk to him for so long. And it's like, they think he's gay, but then he's not, and then he somehow fucking gets with all these amazing girls, and all the straight, like, kind of masculine guys are just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this guy's just
Yeah, dude, I just need to get like a fucking thrift store coat and just go shirtless like fucking India with this thrift store coat on and just be like, boom up. Hey, hey baby, how you doing? Hey baby, how you doing?
You're gonna get married to a Indian royalty, like just the most, like a beautiful, beautiful Indian girl who's like a princess or some shit, and you're gonna be like, okay, put me on the Bollywood movie, and then you'll just be famous. You'll be like a comedian in England, in a comedy actor in India. I could see it, dude.
Dude, I would love to do that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, dude. When we go to India, let's just go to a Bollywood studio and just become like fucking famous actors and do that life for like 3 years.
I see you having more success in India in the entertainment arts than me. I feel like now you'd have more spiritual significance in the way. Wait, actually, I don't even know what the fuck I'm saying. What the fuck am I saying? I think that you
go with it. Let's hear it.
Okay, I think that like the roles get reversed, where you're maybe I'm more of like an entertainment kind of focused person in the West. You're more spiritual. Yeah. But I think in India, I would be like the spiritual kind of leader type, and you would be more of the entertainer. You know, where like your comedy comes out more in India.
Yeah, my Leo comes out in India, and I'm just like, fucking like, everybody, let's go, like party time.
Party time, yeah. And then I'm just like Jeshta, because you're a Leo moon. So in Vedic astrology, you're basically your moon sign is the most important part, and it's not the moon sign in the West. So my moon in the West is Sag. My moon in Vedic is Jeshta. I got a reading today. That's the only thing she mentioned is like you're Scorpio. So Trey's Leo. So it's funny. Maybe Vedic astrology, it works like that's what your astrology is when you're in India.
Dude, I can't wait for us to go to India, bro, and see what happens.
We're definitely going to drink alcohol.
Desi Dadu, man.
But my hangovers are so bad now, but I don't care. I'll do anything for India.
Maybe we won't get a hangover because it's in India.
Maybe we'll learn a city to not get a hangover. Yeah. Maybe by then I'll know a city, which is
that's spiritual... what we'll use our yogic practice for. Is like, we come back from India. So what did you learn? We learned this dope fucking technique to not get a hangover.
Yeah, bro. We can show that to all the fraternity bros in the West, like India.
Yeah. We end up having this like company that just goes around and frat houses hire us, and we're like, so guys, this is how you don't get a fucking hangover. So when you're roofing those girls, you can hop out.
Yeah, we're like, drink this Desi Dadu right now. It might kill you, but at least you party. And next we'll bring you back to life. I don't know.
Exactly. Resurrection.
Yeah. Anyways,
it's called the Hangover Resurrection. That's how we'll market it.
Yeah, I'm excited. But yeah, I think one thing she said about me was she's like, you can do anything you put your mind to, right? That's what she said. Not like a ego way. She's like, you just have very like, when you like whatever you do will not turn to gold, but like whatever I put my mind to, I can succeed in. So maybe I'll just put all my mind into making you a successful actor in India, and maybe it will work. A successful, famous comedy actor in Bollywood.
Yeah, dude, awesome. You'll be my like manager,
agent. I'll just
agent. Yeah,
I'll meet tons of like people like high ups in society and just fucking connect you. Make like I'll pay them off. Put Trey in your movie, motherfucker. The girls will love him.
I can see you with like that headset, you know, that like headset that comes out. It's like, hey, everybody, okay, we got Trey here. You want a movie? $10 million rupees.
10 million rupees, guys. Rupees. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
We're talking big money here, big money.
Super American.
What's the thing they use? It's lakh, right? Lakh is like 10,000 or something. A lakh.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like how they say the currency.
Lakh.
Just because yeah. 100,000. 1 lakh is 100,000.
Rich ass motherfuckers have that. Yeah, that'll be good. But anyways, we're talking about. I wrote some notes down before we started this. I wrote chakras, spiritual ego, Venus, and Mars. I don't really know what any of that means, but
Venus and Mars. Okay. So we're kind of talking about the influence of Venus and Mars within our society, and throughout ages and throughout time. And it seems like Mars in its heightened state is like the physical materializer. It's really good at focusing and kind of it can like bring in the spiritual down into the physical. So if you think about like kind of the yogic practices, these are manifestations of spirituality. So it's like it needs some Mars energy to really focus beam, like energy beam down, and to figure out like how to make this practical, how to make this work, how can we do this. And when it's in balance with Venus, it's a really beautiful mix. But then when Mars kind of goes out of balance, we begin to see a lot of war. That's kind of the shadow side of Mars, and like really sticking to your ideals and fighting for it and fighting for greed. And like we can see it in our society, especially in the males, how Mars oriented we are. And even in physical representation, we just have this rover on Mars right now, right?
Yeah.
We have a rover on Mars. We have the first flight on Mars. Tesla wants to create a society on Mars. So we were talking about how different planets have these if you were to go and visit Mars, you'd start tuning into the collective frequency and energy of Mars, and the Mars human would be very different to an Earth human. They'd have a very different set of and way and act. It's like when you go to a different country, there's so many different customs. So imagine going to a completely different planet. And we were just talking about how a lot of male energy is kind of really in this toxic Mars aspect.
Yeah, man. It's interesting because it's also red, the color of Mars, and red represents the root chakra. So it's almost like I sense it's like these humans who are just trying to they feel insecure in their root chakra, and they're trying to figure out like how they can feel more secure with their existence and stuff like that. Maybe there's a correlation between that and Mars's color, but maybe not. That's just throwing that one up there, and maybe someone catches it. But as for the symbolism, I definitely do think there's something to. 1 second, I'm just putting my order in for my Mexican food. There's only one Mexican. You've had it, Pablitos. Remember, it was next to my old house in Cluj.
Oh yeah.
It's actually good. I used to hate it, but now I love it. I just miss Mexican food a lot.
We also see Mars energy in.
That's so sidetracked.
So in terms of spirituality, we can relate, or even political ideals in society, we can relate the toxic side of Mars to the extreme right, in terms of how they're.
I see what you're saying. But what would the extreme left be? Wouldn't that be the
extreme left would be toxic,
not Venus.
Toxic side of
Mercury.
Venus.
No, Mercury.
No, Mercury.
Yeah, dude, Mercury is all about intellect, and it's all about communication.
But they're not about that. They're about like this. The hippies, like the left side, is all about is about oneness, or it's like taking down borders. Venus is all about universal consciousness. It's like oneness. It's like merging with one another.
But Mercury is the highway of information. But yeah, you could say it's Venus. It's more feminine. I just have some very bad examples of leftists in my head right now.
No, I know, but Venus is a really beautiful planet, but in its toxic side, you can see it is people,
passive aggressive, like canceling it.
Yeah, passive aggressive, and it's also, trying to ignore the physical, right? Whereas Mars gets too obsessed with the physical.
Yeah,
Venus
ignoring the primal
exactly
like, parts of us, like, oh, we're too deep for it. Like the primal. Yeah, so true, dude. Like, well, you said how like conservatives, it's like it's more simple, right? More about action and Keep going with your thought though.
Yeah, and then so we see that a lot of the time, especially in spiritual communities, is that we have this need to transcend, right? Everyone keeps talking about the ascension, the age of Aquarius, we're going to rise. Like everyone keeps trying to talk about this one event like that will transcend us, or that the goal of spirituality is to transcend. And that's not it. Like if we were meant to be in the spiritual world, we wouldn't incarnate into the physical. The reason for the physical is for us to learn the really deep things of matter. This whole universe is a learning experience. And there's a say, trees can only reach as high into the sky, into the heavens, as deep as they go down into hell. And to incarnate into the physical, into this dense 3D reality, is deep work. And to escape is the pussy way out. Like everyone is so fearful of these intense emotions, these intense times. So they're like, fuck it, let's get out of here. Let's ignore everything physical. Science isn't real. Physics isn't real. Physical, nothing. No. Let's just go pure spiritual. But it's finding the mixture of those two. And that's when Venus and Mars are in balance and they have their dance in the cosmos, then that is when the true kind of evolution for humanity is, when we have accepted our place in the physical. We have the ability to materialize, physicalize, and bring these grand ideas of Venus into the physical. That's when we kind of come into balance. And so we see this separation of the left and the right, toxic Venus against super toxic Mars. And we're continuing to separate, and we have to reduce those polarities and see what the truth of what we're actually trying to say. Because there is beauty in the spiritual and the unmanifest and oneness, and there is beauty in the physical, and we have to merge them together.
Yeah, man. And one may ask, what does this look like in an individual's chart? To give a better example, or not a better example, to give more clarification astrologically. Well, if you had a human being, right, like us all listening, or maybe not all listening, maybe we got some aliens in this bitch, maybe some, who knows, but of someone who's very Venusian in their chart compared to someone who's very Martian, right? Someone who's very Martian would be extremely assertive. They might not really like have that feminine, that kind of yin quality. They'd really be more about doing, impulse, action. But Venus is like that beautiful energy that is more passive, right? More, it's like sitting under a tree and meditating and letting things come to you, and not necessarily acting on first impulse, but maybe it's about art, right? It's about curiosity and what you're able to create with your imagination and create, which is more Neptune imagination, but it's more of a feminine quality that's more soft. And yeah, what you're saying is that humanity is taking on too much, even shown by us our obsession with Mars, too much of a Martian physical approach, which brings me back to the Buddhist idea of being instead of doing, and how through meditation, we all need to allow ourselves to just be, because we're in our minds, our human monkey minds, we're always thinking about past, present, future, like, oh, this thing that's come up, but we don't allow ourselves to just breathe and just let go of our thoughts, our crazy monkey brains for a second, and just sit with whatever comes up. That's Venusian energy, is sitting and letting, it's so people that are very Venusian, they sit and they have this natural kind of like attractiveness to them, where they're not always going, maybe to a detriment if they're too Venusian, they're not Martian, they're not going towards things themselves, but they attract things to them, attract things or people. The Martian without the Venusian would be the person who doesn't allow themselves to just sit and attract, but goes towards everything. So does that make sense kind of with what you're saying?
Yeah. That was really well said. Yeah, I love that. You elevated the concepts. I really like that. It gave a really clear image of exactly what we're trying to talk about. That's the Martian energy. You see, you were able to bring it down and physicalize it into words much better than I was trying, because for me I kept getting lost in concept, and then you brought it right down. Maybe it's that red lighting.
Yours was good. I just built off of what you said. I don't think I really did anything special. I just talked about. All I did was I talked about what it would look like in a birth chart, and somehow that correlation, But what do you make of that? Like compared to like, how do you build on that with what you were saying is the question.
Yeah, it's I know, I think you said it perfectly, is this idea of going and attracting. And it's like they are two opposite forces. Like you're getting and attracting are two different forces. It's like attracting, you're radiating something.
Yeah.
And attracting is almost a word, because attracting makes it feel like a magnet where it's like pulling it to you, but actually it's like you're emitting a force, like you're emitting a vibration. And because that vibration is so, so attractive, basically, people will come to, people
It's
will
just
come,
like,
or things will come,
yeah,
or like
it's
the animal will come and curl up on your lap.
And one quick thing you just made me think of, this is also exactly for people interested in astrology, why Venus and Mars, how they relate to love, right? And why when you look at a birth chart, but like the very Venusian person, right? Maybe like they're the attractive one, right? They're the one that like they just have that beautiful quality. You know, when someone's very unclingy or like, like like for example, like imagine like the girl, right? The beautiful girl, even like the guy who lets the girls come to him, right? He doesn't feel the need to like go towards it. It's maybe a better example with a girl. Like, it doesn't really fucking matter actually. But I imagine a girl who's very, very, pretty or whatever. It doesn't have to be that pretty physically, but just has that beautiful Venusian energy, and she lets everything come to her in life and in relationships. The Martian guy or the Martian girl, I'm sure you've had girls, like I have obviously too, not obviously, but just I have, who like, they just are very aggressive, and they like hit on, they go towards me, and they're like, like almost playing the guy's role. That is like the classical guy's role. That's the Mars role in relationships. The Venus role is like, just like, I'm working on myself. I'm happy with myself. I can let things come to me, and then good things do come to you, right? That's why Venus is so good with love. But then also too much of that, sometimes you have to be a fucking badass in life and fucking grow some balls, as they say in toxic masculinity culture. But it's no other fucking ways. Like, or man up, and even more toxic. Like you have to just fucking like grow up is a better way. Brave up, like find some courage and go up to the person you like, right? So it's like that's kind of how those archetypes relate to love life.
It's less, it's practical. It's like, if you, it's not even about like, it's like, oh god, my birds. Okay, if it's like you are in a perfect state of Mars, it's like you want something, you will get it. There's no like needing to talk yourself up, right? It's like you get what you want. That's it.
Well, it's more like it's not necessarily you get it, but you go towards it without thinking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I think, because it's all about materializing and manifesting that energy. Because there are people, like even women, who it's like they have this, it's like they don't take no for an answer, and that attitude almost ensures that they get what they want. And that can be used in toxic ways with like business and things like that, but then it can be used in a way for self-development as well.
That's why that's so true. Just really quickly, that's why there's things that Mars is great for, right? Like sports.
Yeah.
That's why so it's proven that most athletes have Mars, on an angle, on an angle in their chart, or in certain fire, like signs, not all fire. So yeah, there's different better things for Venus and Mars, right?
Yeah, and what I just thought of is you can call on that energy. It doesn't have to be in your chart exactly. You can call on that energy to help you with specific things. Like if you are in, like, imagine if you're into astrology and you're into sports as well, and you're like, I'm gonna fucking call down Mars and bring it into your game. Like how that's gonna affect you. Like, or let's say you're a fighter, like a boxer, and I'm gonna bring in Mars, and like you have Mars at your back. Like that's a whole fucking like energy, and that's what Katerina did. She told me when she was in India, because India is a very unsafe place for women. At least that's what she was saying. And she said there were these two guys that were trying to kind of take advantage of her. And she is very connected spiritually, and she like called on Kali, which is like this really fierce, like powerful goddess who's literally standing. She's standing on Shiva's body and dancing upon it. And she called them in, and her wrath like completely overturned the dynamics of power in that situation.
Like a snake.
Yeah, and she yeah, exactly. And the men.
Did she actually?
No, I think she had a knife and a scepter, and she started like, she kind of went into like a wrath, like, like I'm gonna fucking, like, what are you doing? Like, you know, she kind of became the wrathful mother in a way. So it's like you can use these energies to help you work with things.
Yeah, that's crazy. And maybe, yeah, exactly. And that's something, did we talk about that in Cosmos or sometime? But like this idea of like, I think I said it in the last thing we did with Cosmos, but like with astrology, it's like you don't have to have a certain sign in your chart. Like I don't have like any, I have Leo. I guess I don't have any. I don't okay. Yeah, like okay, perfect example. So but like even like okay, so like for someone listening who might have like no Aries in their chart, right? And they might have difficulty with self-motivation and assertiveness and be like just by learning about what each 12 signs means, what their high manifestation is and what their low manifestation is, just by knowing that, you can then apply it to your life almost like a remedy for each situation. Okay, I'm in this situation. What is it asking me? What astrology archetype? Because then you know what they mean. You know Aries is the warrior. It's the assertive one. It's the one that's fearless, the warrior, like the leader, all that. I need to be more Aries right now, right? Instead of saying I need to be brave, which is just a fucking word, you have a concept that's so much more multidimensional that's connected to all of astrology. Then you're like, okay, but then also the opposite of Aries is Libra. You know, what's that? Why does it mean to be brave and courageous in warrior? Why is that opposite to being very relational and sociable and kind of like almost give people more than you take sometimes? It's just astrology teaches you things that God created in very amazing ways that just are better than what our language has.
And how I see archetypes is they're a consciousness that you can tap into as your higher self. So, you know, this is what priestesses and, you know, spiritual people do, is they're working with metaphor, images, symbols, and deities. And these deities are archetypes. Yeah. And what does it do? What does it mean to be a priestess of, let's say, Ishtar, right? You have these qualities that are your goddess, are this archetype, and you seek to embody them. And the high priestess is the one who's closest to those archetypes. She can embody those archetypes the most. And she is teaching that energy, and she's passing that frequency on. And she's like, this is the energy of the archetype. And it's very clear. That's why these like people from spiritual traditions who are at the top and who have embodied this energy, they become living gods in a way, because they embody this super heightened sense of self, which is beyond human, just beyond the regular human emotions and experience.
Yeah, fuck. It's so interesting. And that's why, like, another thing with like relating it to astrology too, it's like I was reading this book a while ago, it just came back to me. It's like, you know, you're Virgo, you're a double Virgo, I guess, kind of Libra, Virgo, whatever. But like, whatever you are, you're an example. So let's give us another example. Let's say like someone who has like a double Cancer, right? Who has a lot of Cancer energy in their chart. That person has mastered Cancer, right? Or they're here to master Cancer energy. So they're also like a walking billboard or sign for other people in the world of what Cancer energy is. And they can look at that person and maybe not know the word Cancer, but they understand the archetypes of mother, of home, of nurturer, of caring, of emotions, of the home life, stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. That's really cool as well. If you what's fun is like when you meet people to ask for their chart, not so that you can like, you know, get some weird insight into them. It's just so that you can start to see how those archetypes are manifesting in them. And so you can understand those archetypes better. And what's really cool about the Cosmos group is everyone there is revealing kind of their chart. And so then you can start to see these literally in like right in front of you. You can see how all these different archetypes are playing out in their individual faces.
Yeah, and then you learn them exactly, and then you learn them better for yourself. You know, you're like, oh, this person has a Scorpio, Scorpio sun. Like we have so many Scorpios in our group, but like, you just get to learn. Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, great thing about being an astrologer too is I get to do that in clients, but even more so in a group where we're getting to know each other better each session. You get to and we're actually talking about astrology. That's super interesting. Yeah, I love that group. That group is awesome.
Yeah, if anyone's listening, you guys should hop in. Maybe. Wait, are we open?
Yeah.
Because
anyone can join. I'm not really like pushing it as much as I was before because I'm so happy with the people that are here. But it's very much like if you feel called to the energy of the Cosmos community, which it's a chat, but mostly it's every 2 weeks a 3-hour around Zoom call. We talk about different stuff, not only astrology, no needed knowledge of it, pre-knowledge, like just, some people have only known their sun, moon, and rising, and we learn about tons of stuff. So it's only $10 a month. So if anyone's interested.
Free cocaine.
Yeah, free cocaine. It's like a little, it's like a spiritual family. It's really been something crazy cool that I think it's going to get even more cool and tons of possibilities. But it's very karmic too. And I feel like it doesn't even I feel like it's so karmic that I don't even really need to advertise it because like whoever's meant to join is going to join at this point. I realize it's something way bigger.
Yeah, I just like if you guys haven't heard about it and this is your karmic destiny to join, then let it be because it kind of does start to feel like a family in terms of like how you just everyone's helping each other out, just to find their own spiritual kind of truth and their truths. But anyway, do we have anything else we want to talk about, or should we kind of wrap it out?
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up. I think it's been one of our best episodes. Holy fuck. It's been fire, dude.
I like fuck.
Crack. Yeah, I don't really know. I think this is a really dense episode. I hope people enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something. Once again, I wish that my astrology account, my main account is back, but I'll find a way. We'll do some clips and stuff with this one because we had a lot of like really interesting clips in this episode. But that means we're gonna have to like go back and actually like listen to the episodes together, like on FaceTime or something, and like try to remember like, oh yeah, this was an interesting point, or this was, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll do that. Easy.
Cool. Anything else
All right.
on your side?
No, don't think so.
What are you gonna eat tonight?
So just what am I gonna eat tonight? I actually I know harissa that she was making harissa, but I don't know what we're gonna eat with that. So maybe some Moroccan food. She said something about Moroccan food.
Probably some couscous. She's a Virgo, right? So she probably cooks very good.
Yeah, she is. She does cook well. Yeah.
She's dope. I don't know what you're talking about. Actually, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
I'm not going to comment on here.
Public relations. Cool. Well, hopefully this is good, and hopefully we get some people listening. I don't really get stats on that. I only get stats on downloads, which is so fucking annoying to only get stats on how many times someone downloaded an episode instead of listen to it, because a lot of people listen to episodes and don't download it. I'm sure of that because that's what I fucking do. I don't want to download. Yeah. That means they have to download it to their fucking phone and create space. Is that annoying, dude?
I don't even know if they can do that. They'd have to do it on like their computer because you can't download audio files on an iPhone, or at least.
Maybe I need to hit up Buzzsprout because maybe they mean. Yeah, you can, dude. Like on my phone, I have podcasts, and like it shows me all the list of all of them, and then it's
the Apple Podcasts.
I have Google Podcasts. It's the same
thing.
Right,
it's like, okay.
It's like I think you have to have like a setting on it that says automatically download them. I don't fucking know. Whatever. We're just gonna keep doing it, and eventually we'll figure out who's actually watching it, or how many people are actually watching. Cool.
All right.
Thanks, guys. We're gonna end the recording now.
See you soon.
Good.